Live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck.
Good evening, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass is the other captain, Mark Wages. I can't remember the last time we did a really good rant, but this one I think you're gonna have my back on this because there's some numbers that have recently come out, and along with that, there was one teeny little news article that you kind of had to read, to page 5 kind of thing. I was actually doing it online, so it wasn't pages, but you had to really go through, the woman whose cat ran away and got found, like all of these stories that didn't seem like they were of much consequence, made the list before this one. So I ended up starting down a dive on our DEA agents, and I'm gonna finish up with that because if I start with that, I'll get so angry we'll never get through the rest of the deal. But there are some other statistics that I definitely want to get out to everybody. Hey, Brittany has eyes. She says, don't forget to like and share. Good advice all the way around. Good to see you here this early.
Yes.
I can't remember the last time we saw Brittany this early. All right. So people, the biggest problem in this country today. Now, if you ask me that, or you ask my partner that, there's a pretty safe bet we're going to say drugs, right? And the average person is going to say, well, of course they say that, right? The captain's little lifeboat makes a lot of sense. Here's the thing, though. We're right. In the past, maybe, it was the kind of thing that I went off on that may not have been as justified, but it sure as hell is now. This is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest problem we have in this country today. Yesterday, or the day before, actually, our commander-in-chief met with Xi. You know who that is. He's the big chief daddy at the Beast from the East. And they talked about all of the concerns between the two countries. And it went on for hours, I think 4 of them altogether. And so they sat there and sort of haggled everything out. And I don't know whether this is going to surprise you or not, but the word fentanyl was not mentioned once during that entire meeting. You want to tell me how in hell that happens? We say we're going to keep politics out of it, and I really try to, but this man's an idiot. If you're not going to, this was your opportunity to say, hey, this stuff's killing our country. We're really having some issues. Let me tell you how bad the issues are, people. As you saw in the thumbnail, $1 trillion. First of all, before we get too into it, can you wrap your dome around $1 trillion? Honestly.
Wow. That's a big number.
This is the only way I can put this into any perspective, Mark. And this one, it blows my mind. But this is really the only way that I can wrap my head around it. Because if not, it's just the kind of numbers that you go, well, how many zeros is that? Right?
Yeah.
If they made $1 billion bill, if they issued a bill tomorrow that was worth $1 billion, and you had 999 of them, when you got the next one, you'd have $1 trillion. It would be 1,000 billion-dollar bills. So we're talking about an amount of money that is frightening, especially when you consider that the gross domestic product of this country, right? All of it comes to 23 trillion. Now, another figure, the second largest budget that we blow our cash on in this country is the war on drugs. That's the second largest outspending, military being first. Okay, by the time you take that, I'm not putting this in there. With the 1 trillion, it's got nothing to do with that. If it did, we'd be looking at maybe 2, close to it, right? We're talking about staggering amounts of money. And as I started to read this, and I want to figure out how they come up with this number, because very often the stuff seems arbitrary, because it's a difficult thing. How do you come up with it and put a dollar amount, to what opioids could be costing us? Because think about every different way opioids can run up a bill. Obviously, incarcerating people in county jails, paying for all of the people who are going to prosecute them, right? Paying for their long-term stay when they get sent to prison. So all of these things get tossed into that mix, right? The legal aspect of it. But the one that is really starting to cripple these figures, and this is one that, we haven't seen before, because it really is a very different kind of situation. But you got law enforcement, you've got death, and death turns out to be a huge loss. I'll explain that to you. You can put a dollar amount on death, believe it or not, and it is a huge dollar amount. So, and then the last one would be loss of productivity. Right now in this country, we are at the lowest workforce participation that we have been in the last 45 years. Now, that kind of explains itself, right? Workforce participation. How many people are actually out there trying to get jobs? Well, this is the lowest number ever, right? In the last 45 years. And they're saying that one of the largest reasons for that is this crisis. It's frightening how much this is damaging our business, how much this is affecting our GDP, how much this is affecting the production of all companies. And you realize that when production goes down, right, costs go up. So this is adding to the inflation and everything else that's going on in this country, and it's frightening. But the loss of productivity, you start looking at deaths. How many people die on the job, right? What percentage of those people just overdose on the job? So I started doing some research on that. 8% of every death on the job in the last 3 years has been somebody ODing in the bathroom. 8%, right? Closing in on 1 out of 10 deaths. It's not an accident. It's people going into the bathroom, getting high, and then getting found in there dead. This is an epidemic. And it's just as bad for these companies, for the people who aren't overdosing and dying. As I was doing the deep dive on this and reading the statistics from the Center for Disease Control and all of these, they were interviewing 2 small business owners, which is really kind of funny, right? Because one of them has 900 employees. So they do call that a small business. It's a pretty good sized small business. But he said that he threw his hands in the air and they just stopped testing. They used to do drug testing, right? Before you could get a job, you had to pass a drug test. And then they would hit you once every 3 months at a random. So in 90 days, you're going to get hit. He just said, that's it. We're not doing it anymore. Because so many people tested positive for opiates that he wouldn't have a workforce. He said, if 35 people came in to get jobs and you gave all of them a P test, there'd be about 10 of them, right, that didn't fail. And then of those people, you had to go through the rest of it. And this is damaging us in ways that the general public probably isn't thinking about. Yeah. These are the hidden numbers. So as far as death and loss from death, what you do is you deal with the actuaries. You know who those are? Like these are some smart cats, right? You know how I always say I was told there would be no math. Okay, actuaries live for math. And they figure out things for insurance companies. How long is a guy going to live? You tell me everything he does, right? He skis, he jumps out of planes, he rides motorcycles. They take all of that and they put it into a formula and they say, he's going to be dead at 66. So we can insure him, but we're going to have to pay out really early. Or this guy's probably going to live to 89. He's a better bet. Okay, so they turn the actuaries loose on the number of deaths in the U.S. last year from opiates and how much these deaths are costing us. Let's say the person dies at the age of 45, right? The amount of money that that man would have paid into taxes over the course of his life before he retired gets put into the equation. Now, they don't take that money all at once. They break it out as if, so next year, that guy is still going to be in the statistic. And the following year, that guy's still going to be in the statistic because they're taking that off year after year after year. Does that make sense? Nod for me. Okay, good. $550 billion. $550 billion in loss from death directly attributed to opioids coming over from G's place. And that's not, we're not saying that this is a stone cold fact at this point. Last year, there were about 8,000 heroin overdoses in the US. There was 107,000 people who overdosed and died, which was up 15% from the previous year. But heroin only took 8,000 people off the planet. So the vast majority is synthetic stuff. And all of the synthetic stuff is coming from the beast from the east. Another thing that absolutely turned my stomach, and this is one of the things that you read and you got to stop. You really do. You got to catch your breath. You got to do everything within your power to make sure you don't get depressed while researching this stuff. The number of babies in our country who are being born addicted to fentanyl.
It's ungodly. It's ridiculous.
It's ungodly. And the amount of time and money that it takes for hospitals to treat these children. And if you've never seen a video of what a child, an infant that's born addicted to drugs looks like, I would recommend that you don't. It is one of the most heartbreaking things in the entire world because it looks like an adult would. You can see that the baby's just going through it. And they do the same thing with that baby that they do with an adult. They literally have to start giving that baby buprenorphine.
Yep.
And then they've got to start weaning the baby off over a period of time. This requires a massive amount of work by doctors and nurses. The baby's monitored around the clock, and it can take, depending on how they do a blood trough, right? So what they do is they don't take it out of the baby, by the way, no needles. They take it out of the placenta, and they can test that apparently, and it'll give them an idea of how much. Anyway, after the blood trough, they figure out how much they have to give this child, and it's different in every case. And it's people. This is heartbreaking.
Yep.
It's absolutely heartbreaking. But this is another one of those. This is another one of those stories from the opioid epidemic that no one's talking about. You heard anybody mention addicted babies? Holy hell! If you knew the amount of them, right? All of this lends itself into the $1 trillion a year, right? $1 trillion a year. And the epidemic is shifting. The statistics now are pointing out that this is really seriously shifting. And here's what I mean by that. The vast majority of people who overdose and die are middle-aged white men. Usually we make up 60 to 70% of all overdose patients, right? All overdose victims. Not exactly sure why that is, but it has been steady that way forever. It's not anymore.
I think it has something to do with our demographics. I really do.
It could. It could. I think, a lot of it too is that we were targeted.
Yeah.
When that awful family started cranking this stuff out, they sent all of these people to, all of their reps. They sent them to places where, blue collar, working guys, who consistently get injured on the job. And they went out there and got all of those people strung out. And I think a lot of those were middle-aged white men.
I think a lot of it, Tom,
and
would it be because, like, before, everything was already there in the urban areas. It was already there. so they had to target the suburbs. I think
Right.
that's kind of why.
Well, and they wanted to be able to justify the scripts that they write so that they could fly under the radar. And
makes sense.
statistically, I mean, if you like the job that you had, right? You get injured in those jobs across the board. You get injured if you're working those kind of jobs. Injuries come, and they had a golden opportunity to tell these people that you're in good shape because this isn't even going to get you addicted. Less than 4% chance that this stuff will get you addicted, right? So the Appalachian area of our country, all the way up into New England, got hit the hardest, and that is a very white area of the country. So it probably had a lot to do with it. But oh, and you know what? Stacy Michaels, who would know, by the way, Stacy was a nurse, and she said babies throw up continuously, irritable, fists clench, shaking. It's heart wrenching. It really is. It's heart wrenching.
You know, I know you said for people not to go watch it, but I would almost say at least look at it one time, just so you have an idea, because it really
is going to tear you up.
It will.
Yeah, I mean, it really is one of those things that's just, I mean, absolutely painful. And the question becomes this: you know, we hear people say now, okay, so buprenorphine was invented in the 50s, right? And about 57, and they didn't start using it with naloxone until recently. And, you know, so we don't have 55 years of, of research to say what this is going to do. How much research do we have what it's going to do to a baby? Seriously, what is this going to do to an infant in his first 3 or 4 days on this planet, or her first 3 or 4 days on this planet? The first thing we're doing is giving them dope. That's a frightening thing, but it is the reality of our country. The amount of people, when you go into this equation, it used to be, like I said, it used to be middle-aged white men, and recently, 44.2 out of every 100,000 white men are going to overdose and die each year. That's the statistic, and that's. All of these, you add them all together, that's your 300 a day. However, black men of all ages, right? They're not just middle age, but black men now make up 54.1 per 100,000, which is a monumental jump. And there are a lot of theories as to why this is going on. I am of a firm belief that it's going on because of pills. It's going on because this stuff is no longer in powder form. This stuff is in, it looks harmless, right? It looks exactly like Perk 30s. And for that reason, people who have been on Perk 30s, every time they get a chance, they buy them, right? And it was a big segment. They rap about it, right? There are videos made where they sing, and they sing about the crap and everything else. So I just think it's one of those things that sort of crawled itself into that segment of society. And it's awful. But that 1 trillion, the stuff that you can't quantify, right? The stuff that you can't quantify, because you can quantify how many people call in sick, because the number of people who call in sick and take sick days are through the roof. Never been this high. You know why? Because they're dope sick, right? You honestly can track these. And most of the people who call in sick do it 2 days before payday.
Yep.
There's a shocker, right? They ran out of all of their money.
Yep.
So they don't have any money to buy dope. So they're going to call in for a couple of days, get sick. They will get right the day that direct deposit hits their account. They'll buy their big stash, promise themselves that this time they're going to stretch it out for the entire 2 weeks, and they won't. And this just continues to happen. And in the past, you'd fire that person, right? Kick them out the door instantly. Can't do that anymore.
Yep.
You can't do that anymore. So what you can't quantify is the number of people in there doing a bad job, right? The stuff made in America, right? We used to have a great deal of pride in what we put out. But, as a recovering opiate addict, you wouldn't want me working on an automobile, strung out on dope. You wouldn't want me building anything. You wouldn't want me responsible for anything. But there are so many people who are eating this stuff every day, right? Sorry?
I have no
weird thing. People, if you ever see me get that weird look on my face,
I just
you
keep
know,
going,
I
man.
will get banners that pop up across the top of my screen, and sometimes they say the most bizarre things. Um,
I
hold on
know.
one second.
It's all right. Go for it. I got it, man. Keep moving. You're good, man.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So $1 trillion. By the way, they are releasing this now. This is the third year in a row that they're saying we are at $1 trillion in loss. 3 years in a row. Now, I find it really interesting that overdose deaths are up 15%, but the $1 trillion number didn't go up. If half of that is from deaths, how did 15% not raise that? Because this is the kind of crap we just continue to hear, right? Every time we get a statistic, they will say overdose deaths are up 160%, in whatever part of the country. And then they will list, almost the exact same number as the overdoses from last year. And it's every single time. If you pay attention, you're getting lied to, and they're not even doing a good job of it. They're in your face with it. It's terrifying, but it's the world that we're living in. Now, you can ask yourself logically, how did we get this bad? And we talk about this all the time. But there was a new element to why we are having the problems that we're having. In the past, as I said, the second largest expenditure in the US of America budget, right, is the war on drugs. Now that's the people at customs, right, all the way up to street enforcement teams in local cities and towns, right? All of those things are supplemented by the federal government to help get drugs off the street. And they were always out there trying to do everything within their power, in theory, to make this stuff get off of the streets. We can count on them, right, to at least do that job. Well, it's just not that way anymore. And I'm going to pick on the DEA now, but it has to be across all genres. The gentleman from Customs and Border, the top banana, was forced to resign yesterday, which is probably a good thing. But as far as the DEA goes, as I said, about 5-6 pages into a news article was an article on a man by the name of Jose Irizarry, right? Irizarry, Irizarry. This gentleman was 47 years old and was a DEA agent from Miami. He's on the take, right? He was getting paid off, not just to look the other way. No, he was deeply involved. Money laundering, ensuring that dope was getting delivered, stuff was getting shipped over the country that he knew about. They say he ripped off about $9 million, right? And you think to yourself, you know what? If these people are really slick, it would be tough to catch somebody. If they're just skimming a little bit off the top of everything, how do you catch a guy like that? Well, if he's driving a Ferrari, that might be a good way to catch him, right? I mean, if he's a DEA agent, but he's got a friggin' Ferrari, then you probably should be investigating the hell out of him. Or if the vast majority of people that he is supposed to be working on for his assignment were people out of South America and Colombia in particular. When your DEA agent marries a Colombian woman, right? That's a red flag. Not saying that means that the guy's, going to go wrong or rogue, but it's a frightening thing. However, one of the biggest dealers and money launderers that they were investigating was at his wedding. In fact, he made this guy the godfather to his twin daughters. Okay, so the DEA starts going, hey, maybe we have a problem, right? He files bankruptcy, which they're a little concerned about, right? So the guy obviously has no money, but he goes on vacation a lot, takes a lot of vacation. So they give him a polygraph, which he fails massively, absolutely fails. So Obviously, they suspend him, right? Get him out of there? No. He gets 3 more years of having access to fake bank accounts with real money in them and fake companies because he's supposed to be showing how money laundering is going on. He stole $9 million. And when they asked him about it and he was arrested, he said, yeah, no, I did all of this. And, but I only took 600,000 of that 9 million. The rest of it was cut up among other people in the field office who he says basically trained him on this. This is so pervasive, people. Like I said, this article was hard to come by. And then when you start diving, you find more of them, a lot more of them. And the frightening thing is not so much that this is going on, right? Just how much they're looking the other way. This guy was on yachts. He had 3 houses, right? Got a big mansion in Miami. Now, if you're working for the government as a DEA agent, you can't afford a mansion, right? How about a second one in Puerto Rico? Or another one off of an island, which, by the way, doesn't have extradition. But he didn't work that out too well because obviously he got arrested. Seventh Son, I finally watched that documentary on Clarks. It was about time. Yeah. So thank you, Seventh. It's good to have you back. We missed you yesterday. We really, really missed you yesterday. So this guy gets arrested and he has started to roll over on other people. So when I start to tell you about the number of people that have been busted recently, none of the people that he told on are in this yet. As of right now, 15 people have been arrested and convicted. 15 people may not sound like much, right? When you think about how big the DEA is, just 15 people, but it's the way that these people get busted. It's the things that these guys were doing. There was a guy named Fernando Gomez, right? Fernando Gomez didn't turn rogue. He was not a guy that got in there and saw all the money flying around and just thought, you know what, screw it, I'm going to take a little, right? No, he was working for the cartels before he ever even put in his application. This guy infiltrated the Drug Enforcement Agency. Now, they're supposed to take polygraph tests before they become agents, right? How does this guy slip through the cracks? I don't know, but listen to what he did. He was helping dope that was coming through Puerto Rico get to New York. Cocaine, heroin, fent, tons, right? I'm not using that term, like, boy, there was a lot of it. No, tons. As in thousands and thousands of pounds of this crap. Now, how many people died because of the crap that he got to New York City? How many people overdosed on dope that he helped smuggle into New York while working for the DEA? How much time do you think this guy got? This right here, salt in the wounds, people. He got half as much time as I did for being a felon in possession of a firearm. I got about 86 months. This guy got 4 years. 4 years in prison for infiltrating the DEA and allowing people to smuggle tons of cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl into New York. Every time one of these guys gets busted, the story is the same. The fact that 15 people got busted isn't what's scary. What's scary is they all say the exact same thing, which is everyone else was doing it. Everybody else was doing it. In different words, all of them basically said, I do dinner after the show. John, that's a great question. I'm sorry, that really struck me as funny. They say that go ahead.
He eats dinner after the show.
Yes,
like
it is
after the show.
Usually. Yeah, usually I run directly over there.
Yep.
They all say something to the effect of, this drug war is over anyway, so what's the difference? They've been quoted in so many different ways, but to make a long story short, all of them have said, you know what? What's the point? Yeah, we were skimming. We were all taking a little bit. This war on drugs is over. Our southern border. I'm trying to do the politics thing.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's so
not
hard to do this show
Yeah,
without doing the
it
politics thing,
is.
especially when your president goes to meet with the biggest drug dealer on the planet.
Yep.
I mean, let's keep that real.
Yep.
This country is shipping dope all over the planet. Vast majority of it to the good old US of A, courtesy of Mexico, through a border that is as porous as it has ever been. And I don't care if you dug the idea of putting up a great big wall and you thought that guy was a genius, or you absolutely hated the idea. No matter what your opinion is, people can walk this crap across the border, and it's killing people at a rate that is absolutely terrifying. And the numbers that we're giving you right now, they're not accurate. I promise you. You know, we're giving you last year's numbers. Well, it's going to be uglier this year, because not only are they shipping over fent, but now we got nits, right? And we got the zombie crap and the Frankenstein dope, right? Where they're mixing in benzos and all of this stuff. You cannot tell me that this isn't an attempt, basically, to kill this this nation without having to fire a shot. And as of the moment, I would say that they're doing a pretty decent job of it.
Yep.
Right? A pretty decent job of it. I got to tell you another one, people, and you can take this for what it's worth, right? New York City has passed laws recently that are very kind to criminals. You can rob a bank in New York City, and if you didn't shoot anybody, they will let you out without bail the same day. You can look up and see guys who robbed 2 banks in a day, got caught for both of them, right? Before they actually held them, because they let them out on just a signature bond. Hey, make sure you come back to court, okay? All right. Yesterday, a guy named, his last name is Pagan, Manuel Pagan, got caught with 20,000 pills of fent. These are the rainbow ones. Every one of them was stamped M-30, right? So it's a knockoff version of the Percocet 30 pill. The pill that is killing more people than anybody, right? This is the pill. The M30s, the rainbow ones, these are death. He got caught with 20,000 of them. He was arrested. He was brought to court. They took him to Rikers Island just long enough to high-five him and then let him back out onto the street. This is insane. This is insane. If I was carrying around little packets of rat poison, right, and I intended to go to a high school with them and pass them out, you think they'd let me just walk around? Because that's what this dude's doing. 20,000 fent pills. You got to figure, statistically speaking, right? Because we did this once before with 15,000 pills, if you remember. They tested every single one of the ones that came out of the Lego box. And 6,000 of them were a deadly dose off of 15. So let's say this guy's wasn't quite as deadly. 5,000? And let's say that half of that goes to a really serious habit. Somebody that's doing 9-10 grams of dope a day that can handle that kind of a load. Okay, so at 2,500. And of the 2,500 that do get those pills in overdose, let's say we just get a couple of real miracles where, you know, they had enough Narcan to keep pumping into this dude or this woman to bring them back. Maybe he'll only kill 1,000.
Yeah, it's sad.
You don't even have to put up bail. You don't even have to put up bail. And politics aside, there's a party that's making this happen. Research who it is. Get pissed off at them, and then maybe vote that way. Huh? Seriously. Because we're in deep crap as a country. If this stuff doesn't jump off the page at you, there's something wrong. Right? There is something wrong. The speed at which this stuff is coming across the southern border, and people aren't even being punished. Right? These DEA agents, they don't get any time. Risk reward. As criminals, you do a risk reward thing. Okay, if I rob a bank, what? I might get 18,000 to 20 grand. If I get all 3 drawers, maybe 18 to 20 grand. If I get caught And it's my first time, and I don't have a gun on me. I'm looking at about 42 months. So as a drug addict, you do the risk reward thing and you say, you know what? I'd rather do that than have to go rob a store 45, 55 times to get half that money and keep myself well for a couple of weeks. Right. So you start doing that. Well, as these agents, we're talking about them stealing, in some cases, tens of millions of dollars. And then they're going to get what, 4 years? At which point he'll get out and write a book or sell a movie deal. There's no punishment for these people. And their crimes are so much worse than the guy standing on the street corner slinging 10 bags. I mean, let's keep it real. These are government-sanctioned drug dealers. These are people that we put our faith in to try and save our kids. And instead of doing that, they're going like this and passing the dope down the line, right? And getting paid for doing it. All right. The next dirtbag was a guy from New Orleans. This guy had a nickname, the White Devil. Lovely, huh? That nickname was not what they called him around the shop. That is what the people, the criminals, the people that he arrested, like his name was known throughout all of New Orleans. Did you ever see the movie Training Day?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's
This is him.
Yeah.
Right? This is that movie. This guy would go out and bust people. And then before anybody could come out there and, they would steal all of the cash, right? And half the drugs. Then they would go pass off the drugs to people that were going to pay them and keep all of the cash. Now, they go out to one guy, and unfortunately, there's no dope, right? They break into this dude's house. There's no dope. There's a bunch of money, but there's no drugs. And maybe he was a dirtbag, maybe he wasn't. But in this country, you got to be convicted, right? You can't just arrest somebody because they got a pile of money sitting around. Well, the guy stole the money. Of course, you got to justify that, right? So he went on the stand and lied about dope that was there. And he got convicted for that, by the way. That is one that he got convicted for. Obstruction of justice, lying on the stand, perjury. How many others do we not know about? Right? That one was obvious. When the heat was on him, and he heard that the heat was on him, he made a trip out to the swamp with two other guys and just dumped stuff. Rolex watches, right? Jewelry, all the stuff, threw it in the swamp. They had been buying so much stuff with stolen cash that they literally had to just dump boxes of it into the swamp. This came out at the trial. You're going to tell me that the people in that division didn't know this guy was doing this? Does that ring true with you? Because it doesn't with me. And once again, when this guy gets busted, as it almost always happens, there were two other low-life DEA agents that cut a deal, right? They're gonna roll over on the top dude so that they can get a little less time. Well, then we know three of them, right? Absolutely three were involved. And there's a fourth, by the way, who hasn't cut a deal yet. Apparently, either he didn't have enough to hand over, or his crimes were so bad that they don't really want to cut a deal. But he has not yet been sentenced. The White Devil got 13 years. Now, the people that ratted on him, there was a guy named Johnny Domingue. He got 34 months. Robbing people, stealing drug money, right? Stealing drugs and then handing it off to the poor parts of the city, right? Grabbing this stuff and then bringing it to the 9th Ward where they would hand it out to gang members who would then pay them for the drugs that they were stealing. 34 months. Sound like justice to you? Yeah. I mean, for real, this is where we're at. The other dirtbag who cut a deal, his name was Carl Newman. And Carl got 42 months. Carl apparently was the one who first broke the story of how much stuff they had to throw into the swamp. They asked him for an estimate value. He said there was no way to figure that out because he only knew his part. He didn't know everybody else's. They said, try. He said 700,000 or 800,000. You realize the amount of money you got to steal to be able to just drop 700,000 or 800,000? How much did they really get away with? I don't know. But that guy, because Apparently, he was the worst of the two. They threw the book at him, and he got 42 months. 42 months. People, I did twice that because I had a gun. Nothing else. Right? I got caught with a gun. Got twice that much time. It's disgusting. It really is. And this is pervasive. It's like I said, every single time one of these guys gets busted, it's the same story. Everybody was doing it. Everybody is doing it. They're all on the take, right? They're, these guys come in and say, in fact, the White Devil, absolutely great. If you read his court documents, his lawyer went in and said, you have to understand, Your Honor, that this was a solid individual until he went to the DEA, at which point these people turned him into a dirtbag. That was his defense. No joke. Right. That he was an awesome stand-up guy when he was a cop, but the DEA take people and turn them into dirtbags. Now, the line is because they have to go under or this or that. There's nobody watching the cookie jar on any of these people. How do you get away with $9 million before somebody catches you? $9 million, right? So this is buy money. They're not missing $9 million. Holy hell. And if you say, well, they stole it over a period of time. If 100,000 is missing and they're not aware of it, then we're in deep crap as a country, right? If 100 grand of buy money doesn't come back and no dope comes back, then you got dirty guys on the force, right? It's pretty obvious. Yep. Everywhere we go, no matter what part of the country you get to, same story, same defense. Sorry, Your Honor, it's not me. I was a great guy. I got in there and guys that were already ripping off tons of people just showed me the ropes. A couple of them retired or whatever. I'll make a deal and tell on them. The guy that just got 12 years told on a absolute gaggle of people, right? So that number of 15 is going to go way the hell up here in a little while. But this is where we're at. So when people go, I've done a show where I said I honestly don't think the government gives a crap, and I took a lot of crap for that.
I think
I got emails from people that said,
"It ain't just
what's that?
It ain't just one side of the aisle don't give a crap." I don't think none of them really give a crap, to be honest.
No,
I mean it's really that.
No, when I say government, I'm not pointing fingers at either side of the aisle. They both suck.
Yeah.
I mean, let's keep it, we keep this real. The death toll's at 1 million since the opioid epidemic started. And we've had plenty of Republicans and plenty of Democrats. Everybody had a shot to do something about this. Right? Everybody had a shot to do something about this.
Sitting on their hands. It's like.
And there's a woman who has taken up the mantle, so to speak. I don't know if you guys have, she's been on every single news platform at one time or another. She worked at CNN, then she worked at Fox, and she had her own show. She's does freelance stuff, and I think she's with Newsmax currently. But her name is Greta Van Susteren. And there was not a night that goes by that she does not go postal about this. You know what I mean? Like every time it comes on, I go, holy crap, someone's beating the drum with a much bigger audience than we got.
She's the one that did she have a stroke? She's got a little bit of a cross-eyed or something.
I don't know.
I think she does.
You may be right.
Yeah. But no, I mean you're definitely right. She's not afraid to say it. She does a lot of the law and crime stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. She was an attorney at one time.
Yeah.
I think she actually made she got famous on court TV back in the OJ days. That's when she first popped up. You know what?
That makes sense.
I'm getting a text message that says no, so I must have done something wrong on that. All right. Apparently that's not what it is. Anyway. So it's funny,
Linda,
isn't it?
Chill out.
Actually, it wasn't even Linda
this time.
But not a bad guess. Not a bad guess. Chuck Norris says it's strange that the heroin nightmare ended and fentanyl shot out of control when the U.S. pulled from the Middle East. My ex-wife's dad was in Desert Storm protecting a poppy field there. You know what, Chuck? We've done a couple of shows on this. In the 1980s, cocaine became an epidemic in the form of crack. The crack wars of the 80s were unbelievable, right? And there was a guy by the name of Freeway Ricky Ross who was working with the CIA, right? Which is probably three initials I should never say on the show, but it's probably going to bury this. However, he was working with them.
It doesn't matter.
You're right. You're exactly. And China, piss them all off today. But the DEA dropped dope off to this guy. Why? Because they wanted the Contras to get money so that they could fight communism, but they didn't want to go in front of Congress. If you go to Congress and you say, hey, I need some money, how much money do you need? 51 million. Well, if you go over 50, you got to break down everything. You got to tell them everything. So black budgets and all the things you hear about, it's not that simple. You can't just go to Congress and say, I need $100 million and I'm not going to tell you why. So these agencies that basically are governments unto themselves, they use drugs to finance stuff. And if not, it's like Chuck said, it's a hell of a coincidence, right? So we were in South America. The epidemic was cocaine. We were in the Middle East and Afghanistan. The epidemic was heroin, right? Now we're out. It's like he said, we're no longer in any of those places. And now the fentany's coming. And it's the rate that this stuff is, and they're making it stronger, people. They're making it stronger. You're hearing now from autopsies where people will have a pill in their stomach. That's 100%. That hasn't been cut. That's murder. That's murder. Nobody is pressing pure fent into a pill with any other thing in mind than killing someone. Because it would kill me. And I have a pretty ridiculous opiate tolerance. I've never overdosed. My entire life, I've never overdosed, which is very unusual for addicts. Yeah. But that would kill me in a heartbeat. I'm sure a third of that pill would kill me.
But,
how does that happen? Go ahead.
Fentanyl's synthetic, though.
It is.
So the opiate plant really wouldn't have much to do with it. It's all made by synthetic stuff.
No, what we're saying is when they pulled out of Afghanistan, heroin dried up.
Right.
At that point, all the synthetics started coming in.
Yeah.
And as he said, I believe he said it was his girlfriend's dad was guarding a poppy field.
Yeah.
This is, we've heard this before from a lot of different people. Ex-wife's dad was in Desert Storm protecting a poppy field.
Yep.
Wow.
That's kind of crazy, man. I mean, it really is. Regardless.
And Grand Madness would like us to do a live on addictive personality types. And if it's a real or a myth, you know what? It's been a long time since we did that because we've done that show. But we're probably due.
I think they asked that at the beginning of the show. I didn't have a chance to.
Yep. I ran out of my last bottle of whiskey this morning. Wish me luck. Christopher, I wish you luck.
Yes.
But, hey, Bubba, good to see you. Luck is the residue of design. If you set out and you have a plan like we were talking about yesterday, it's amazing how the more I plan, the luckier I get. The more I plan and apply myself. Great quote too. The residue of design is luck. Reach out. You start feeling like you're gonna screw up. Have that list of 5 that we were talking about yesterday. Reach out. Put me on the list. I'm easy to get a hold of. I am truthfully easy to get a hold of. But the whole government angle thing, you can trace that all the way back to the very first heroin epidemic we ever had in this country. It's when we were in Vietnam. Every time our boys go and fight somewhere, whatever the local product is, we end up with an epidemic of it in our country. Every time. Now, there are people who say that's because those alphabet agencies use that money to fund all of the different places that they're fighting and that they don't feel like telling Congress about. There have been documentaries done on that. There have been books that have been written on that. It's certainly worth thinking about. It's a hell of a coincidence. If that's not what's going on, it is one hell of a coincidence that when we're in South America, we have a cocaine epidemic. When we're in Vietnam, we have a heroin epidemic. The first, right? 7,000 deaths in a year. Can you imagine, right? We're pulling our hair out. They couldn't believe how many people that was killing. It's nothing, right? We lose more than that a month,
Sure.
right? Way more than that.
Yeah.
This is a
It's
yeah.
it's not getting any better. Not getting, it's just going to continue to snowball until something has to break. And we talked about this briefly too, about how they maneuver around. That's what they do. This is one of the biggest reasons why they went to synthetics instead of trying to do the natural thing with like the opium plant we were talking about. Because all they have to do is change it just a little bit, change the analog just a touch. Now it's legal again. They can just keep shipping it.
Well,
it's freaking.
Hey,
nuts.
thank you, John. Yeah, and there's a lot of truth to that. What they did is they took alpha fentanyl, and the U.S. government went in there and talked to the people from the beast from the east, and they said, "Look, we don't want that crap shipped to this country anymore." They signed some form of an agreement, promising that would not happen, and then they just went to analogs, right? They went to stuff that's just knocked a couple, like you were saying. You change a little bit of the chemical makeup, and there's about 16 versions of fent that they have caught in the U.S. 16 versions. I mean, they're all fent. They're all some variation thereof, right? But so once they start clamping down on analogs, which we did, we went to them and said, "Hey, we don't want any analogs of fent coming into this country. Like, we don't want you taking advantage of us. We already cut this deal. No more, right? No analogs." They said, "Okay." So now they just ship the raw ingredients to make it. Yep. Just ship the raw ingredients. Now, that's for the big scale, right? That's for the huge amounts that they're making south of the border and then running it into the U.S. The stuff is killing people. However, you can still buy good old alpha, right? Not too difficult. Yeah. They'll send it FedEx.
Yeah.
Sad but true.
No,
and that stuff's not cut. So if somebody orders an ounce of that, the odds that they're going to die on it in the process of mixing it is pretty damn good. For real. I mean, you get the dust and the powder coming up from that, and it will absolutely take you out.
These women are making me blush over here, man.
Is that right?
They're giving us compliments, man.
Oh, no.
Can't handle that.
Well, that's enough of that. Let's get a cat.
I love you guys, for real. Right? Yeah. No, it is about.
Thank you. That's
getting close to the top of the hour. But no, thank you guys. I really do appreciate it. When you guys say stuff like that, it really does mean the world to me and Tommy. It really does, because it lets us know that we're doing something that you guys appreciate or getting something from. So, and you're right. We do put a lot of work into this. This doesn't just happen like snap, snap, snap. Like tonight, we had in case people didn't see it, we had a whole nother show lined up, didn't we, Tommy?
We did.
And
so today we actually put two shows together on the same day.
Yeah.
Because this basically came, a lot of these numbers just came down today, and ideally, kind of like to get it out before anybody else does.
Yeah.
And how many other people are even going to do it? We don't. I wish people would take what we're doing, rip it off, and do it themselves. Like, that would really make me happy, because there's just no way to get this out far enough. Yeah. There's just no way to get this out far enough. It really is. I don't know that labor of love is the right term, because I think we're angry more than anything else. But the fact that it seems to me like no one's paying attention. Thanks, Lady Crispin.
Yep.
Appreciate you. It's like no one's paying attention. You understand what I'm saying? The overdose thing, okay. People get on and they say, 107,000. They spit out statistics. How do you not see we're under attack?
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, you got to be an ignoramus to not realize that they're making it stronger, right? They're consistently making it stronger. They're cutting it less. They're killing more people. If this was a business, you would have a vested interest in keeping your clients alive.
Yeah.
Right? You would have a vested interest in keeping your clients alive. Heroin addicts, heroin dealers didn't want to kill their clients. They wanted their clients coming back 4 times a day. They don't seem to care much, right? The fentanyl dealers don't seem to care that they killed 100,000. How many customers do you think they got?
Yeah.
You know, you can lose 100,000 a year and have no problem, and maybe 100,000 next year. $1 million over a decade. It's not going to hurt your business. No, people, they don't care about the business. That's not what this is about. This is about them trying to destroy our country without firing a shot. And if you look at the totality of it, if you look at all of the different ways we're being attacked by this country, that's just, I mean, the fent is obviously the front line, but the hearts and minds, right? The P-ganda, all of that coming in from that cool little channel that just does the dance videos, right? Study that baby for a while. If you have not seen that video, go back and watch it. Really, because that is one of the scariest,
Aaliyah,
honestly, one of the scariest things in the whole world.
Heck on, man.
What's that?
They're making me blush again. Oh, yeah, okay. Aaliyah with her comments.
Well,
I think I understand.
The sad thing is,
Go ahead.
I'll just blush for the both of us.
Yeah, the kid.
I'm the one stuck out here.
Yeah, but yeah, and thank you guys. I really do appreciate all that. We're human, right, Tommy? And sometimes things hit us just like they hit you guys, and we need that kind of positive stuff sometimes to keep ourselves moving in the right direction, so we can give you guys
No question.
give you guys the best of what we have. I mean, we never don't give you guys all we have, but I mean, we do. Some shows are better than others. There's reasons for that, but
Art says the fine dining ware country. You know what? We have come up with so many different ways to say that country, but I have not said that one before, and you're right. The fine dining.
It took me
ware.
a second, but I caught that. Yeah, good one.
Yeah, you know what? It's almost like a Seventh Son joke, only a little bit better. Sorry.
He says a little bit better.
Sorry.
Steve, you better run.
Right?
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Okay. So here's the takeaway, right? Because every time something like this happens, you end up with the question, what the hell can I do about it? Right? What can I do about it? The DEA is crooked, right? Now they're working with the cartels. We're really in deep trouble, right? So you could throw your hands up and you could say, well, we lost, right? And, it is what it is, and it's just going to tear our country apart, right? Or you can say, not on my watch. We might lose this war, but if there's a battle that I'm in, we're not losing that battle, right? So if you know anybody that has a shot of ending up on this stuff, anybody that's in middle school, anybody that's in high school, anybody that's in college, anybody that just got out of college parties a little bit, anybody that you know, right? Anybody that you care about, have the conversation. Just say, I don't know if you ever ate a Percocet 30. I don't know if you ever ate a Perc 30. Don't ever eat one again, right? Unless a doctor writes you a prescription and you go get it at Walgreens, then don't take it, because the odds that you're going to actually get a real one are nil. The odds that you're going to get a fake one are really, really strong. The odds that fake one can kill you. I mean, you're putting your life on a roulette wheel, and a roulette wheel has 38 spots, right? This one's got about 10. For real. So talk to everybody you know. For God's sakes, don't let it be your kid. Just educate everybody that you can. Drag them to a video. If you don't feel like going off and screaming, just sit them on the couch and make them watch us scream. Right?
We need to take a play from their book. Over there, what are they doing? They prepare for 2 generations away, with no expectations of ever seeing it pan out in theirs.
Correct.
And that's where it gets fixed. It gets fixed in the home. It starts with the family. If it doesn't get fixed there, it's never going to get fixed at all. So talk to your kids. They're not stupid. Don't think that they aren't. Don't think because of whatever part of the country or wherever you're at in town, they're not going to be exposed to it, because that's a lie. It's all over the place.
Yeah. It is all over the place. They're honestly, we've gotten to the point where uh, they call them cells. They really do. And there are cells everywhere. There is no place in this country that hasn't been touched. By the way, when I was doing the deep dive, I came across a program that they're running where they're giving money out, tons of it. It's left over from the C plus math because of the number of people who got strung out during that. And because our country hemorrhaged $1 trillion, they got all of this money that they still need to give out. And a lot of it is going to offset this crisis. In theory, it's worthless. They're not doing anything. However, by looking that stuff up, you can tell we're the worst parts of the country because it's allocated according to need. So, like, there are a couple of states just a couple, that got smaller amounts of money. You can really see who's getting hammered. Texas is getting destroyed. Texas is getting it real bad. Florida is getting it real bad. California is getting it real bad. Sadly, Vermont is getting it really bad. The Northeast is just, in general, the Northeast, New England is just getting pounded. But it's everywhere.
It is.
It's everywhere. And the reason that you have to have this conversation is there are kids who buy the stuff online, right? They just order this stuff. You really got to talk to everybody you can. And we ran over, so.
No,
but you know what?
Hey.
We made everybody angry anyway, right? Like the A rhythm is not going to pass this down the line.
Yeah,
anyway.
the algorithm may help us with this one. I promise you that. With that being said, everybody,
but you know what's
share
crazy?
This thing,
Honestly,
share the freaking video.
You know what's crazy, Mark?
What's that?
When people decide that they would like to leave this planet by their own hand, there's a huge statistic based on how many people do that because of opiates, because either they're really sick or whatever, but they choose to go out that way.
Right.
But I chose not to talk about it because I didn't want to really screw up the.
Well, I mean, yeah, that
I hit all the other high notes though, so we're good.
No, I thought you did a wonderful job, man. I mean, you did a lot of good research there, and a lot of good stats and stuff that people needed to hear. And because what it does is it puts in perspective all the other stuff that we talk about. This is why we talk about what we talk about. It's these numbers. We need these numbers to change. They have to change. We want to take that 80%, relapse rate and start picking away at it. And, the only way we do that, again, is to be there for each other and talk to your kids. Start it in the family.
Yeah.
Might not see it this year. Might not see it next year. Give it 30, 40 years. Hey, what if back in the 70s they did that? Would we be here today?
For real. For real. You got to attack this thing from the demand side, not from the supply side. They will continue to supply this stuff. You can lock them up. You can throw them in prison. You can do whatever. If you take somebody who honestly has an opportunity to make $180 legally every 6 months in the country that they're in, right? They're going to take whatever risk necessary to make $5,000 or $10,000 because it's life-changing money. So no matter how many times you bust one of those people, there's someone coming behind. And I caught crap for saying that once because they said, you know what? That's racist. It's a damn fact where the stuff comes from, people. Doesn't make you racist by saying, guess what? It's coming south of the border.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to tell me it's not, right?
Yeah. Prove that.
I mean, honestly. All right. Well, let me get off here before I
we got it.
offend another person. So we're going to be back tomorrow. And I think I know what we'll be talking about. It's going to be a good one. We will be back. Same squirrel time, same squirrel channel. All right. Between now and then, talk to somebody about this stuff. I am Captain Tommy Skillville on the other side of the glass.
Captain Mark Wages.
Cat in the basket. Good night, everybody. We love you. Thanks, squirrel.